Hello, everybody. Hello, Nightbringer.
Hooray for murder.
That was an awful noise to start on right there. That's not ASMR. But hooray for murder. I mean, yeah. Oh, God, are we going straight into the episode? Are we just going straight in this week? Because
it was so bad.
Yes, it was. It was awful. It was fucking awful. I could not believe how bad it was.
There's so much I love about Jessica Fletcher / Angela Lansbury, and this episode had none of it.
Well, you had your little bit at Cabot Cove to begin with, which you must have liked.
A little bit, but it just...
It felt like forced. It felt forced humor.
Yeah.
And such a bad setup to get Jessica Fletcher over to Hollywood.
Normally I can accept some amount of getting things set up, but the number of levels that we go through just to get to the relevant... Just... No.
So, all right. We got a little outburst out of the way. That's... How you doing?
Doing all right.
Doing all right. Doing all right.
I've got firewood in the fireplace, so I'm going to enjoy the rest of my weekend with some nice fire.
Oh, do you actually have a fireplace in your place?
I actually do. I didn't buy it for that, but honestly, now that I've got it, I'm very happy.
Real fire is lovely, yeah.
Yeah, fuck gas fireplaces. What the hell is wrong with that?
Real fire is absolutely gorgeous. I'd like one. That's not just on my TV behind me.
Right.
But we are recording this like 3 days before Christmas. So I guess I have to bring that up. I'm not really a Christmas person. But if you are, I hope everyone is enjoying it.
You're a Guernsey person.
Yeah. I mean, technically I'm a Welsh person, but yes. Guernsey person.
You're French at the best of times.
I don't think anyone is French at the best of times. They do know how to strike. I will give them that. Yeah, this is episode 4.
Yes.
Hooray for homicide.
That was...
Even the title. Even the title of this one. Right. Here's my problem. We're 4 episodes in. And I would say if we ignore the pilot, so we're 3 episodes in, the rapid decline is worrying me.
We're to the point where this show has multiple seasons, right? So yes. At some point, people started thinking it was good, and I'm almost tempted to say we should start doing 2 episodes per until we get through season 1, because what the fuck is this? What the absolute fuck?
Yeah, so I honestly don't... Okay, so we begin at the start. So yeah, we got the little bit at Cabot Cove. We got Ethan fixing the sink.
It almost starts kind of like it starts in a very stereotypical, but it was pleasant enough to remind you, hey, she's a mystery writer, of her coming up behind a puppet and strangling it.
Because it starts with her doing a fake murder thing.
Right.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes.
Well, I'm not going to spoil that just yet, but to go from that to then her trying to type while being annoyed by Ethan working on the kitchen sink, I don't know what he was doing that would make that kind of fucking sound. Like,
no, nor do I.
Didn't make sense.
I'm assuming it was meant to be like the what is it you things you Americans have where you can put rubbish down the sink?
Garbage disposal.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was to fix one of those.
You still wouldn't make that kind of same racket 30 times in a fucking row.
Yes, and then then obviously the phone call comes in. So we've said before that this show doesn't really age itself. Turning the TV on and having to wait for the picture to come on I thought was hilarious.
It ages the show, but it also just seems Jessica Fletcher because it's also what
It does. It
even
does.
for the time. That's a small, old, shitty TV.
I don't know. For the time, that's probably about right.
Really?
Yeah, that's probably considered a fairly good TV. The fact that it was even color.
This is.
No, I don't know.
You know what? I'm not going to argue.
Because obviously, well, because it is America, so I don't know. But it's also, I don't want to say backwater America, but it's Maine. It's a small village, fair. Right? And it doesn't seem like she spent, like, we know she's got 6 books and a movie already. She's got to be sitting on some money, right? I don't think we ever know what her husband did.
No.
So we don't know if there's any money there, but she still lives essentially how she lived before she started doing the writing, right? But no, I would imagine that TV was considered quite a fancy TV. You know, because if I think when I was about 7 or 8, we were still using black and white TVs, and that would have been like 6 years after this.
I'm gonna argue that America
would have been yeah. Well, you would have been more advanced. Like we were still using manual window winders, whereas most American cars already had electric windows. Like the UK was always behind this kind of thing.
See, I remember handheld or hand-powered windshield wiper. I remember rolling down the window, but I don't remember ever seeing a black and white TV.
Oh yeah, no, we had a black and white TV, like, and then we upgraded it to. Yeah,
there was a certain joy to actually manually rolling down the window because it couldn't get stuck because it was cold or any of that BS. Color though, TV needed color.
But yeah, no. So I would imagine that would have been a fairly standard, if not fairly posh TV unit for the time. But obviously, I can't say that for certain.
We do know, though, she has money to burn because she immediately takes a flight out to LA without any qualm question.
Yeah. And then clearly, whoever was writing Murder, She Wrote was not a fan of Hollywood. Well, this episode, anyway. I'm honestly trying to remember how it goes because like this.
So it opens with so she gets a call from someone, and the whole thing of Ethan making a racket, that the developing of the opening of the scene to get her to LA. Does it make sense? Why do we have a racket going on? It could have just been a phone call. She sees what's on TV and then flies out to LA. Why do we care? I guess just for the physical humor. It did not work.
I think for the physical humor, and I would imagine that they probably watched the episode back and thought this needs a little bit of Cabot Cove in it.
I'm okay with Cabot Cove. This just felt like shit. But so then she flies out to LA because she realizes her book is being butchered. Her book is being butchered.
However, I will say, I do want to see that movie.
Yeah, but not because it's going to be good.
Oh, no. It was being butchered, but...
it was so bad it's good movie. Category.
So what's it called? The Dancing Corpse or something like that? The Corpse that Dances?
The Corpse Dances at Midnight or something?
Yeah.
It did have actually a good name.
It was a fairly good title. So we're introduced to what I can only describe as your stereotypical sleazy Hollywood producer. Right.
Are you going to when she's... So she actually flies out there and she talks to...
She talks to the lawyer first, but that was pointless. Or the agent, whatever he was meant to be. I think he was meant to be a lawyer.
None of that scene made any sense either.
No, it didn't. It just seemed to be there to prove that she had actually signed her rights away.
Yeah, but then in all of that scene, we're reminded how much so she's not acting like Jessica Fletcher, pushing things, inquiring details. She seems all too willing to go to the next step.
This whole episode, she didn't seem like Jessica Fletcher. Like, it seemed like a completely different character.
There was one or two times where I felt she was being her. But...
Only towards the end. Only towards the end when she was kind of playing them, I think. Because obviously she worked it out. Not that it was very hard to work out. There was only ever one possible solution to this one. So I don't even think they tried a worthwhile MacGuffin, but we'll get there. So yeah, so she sees the lawyer. She then ends up on set and is... I think you're meant to believe she's been arguing with that security guard to get into the lot for a while.
Right.
And then the costume designer turns up and brings her in as her guest, which is how she gets on set. I liked the fact there was that kind of explanation. Although you also would have thought that the author of the book would have been able to get on set anyway. But I guess when you're not really using her story, you might want to keep her off. So I guess that may have made sense.
Well, I mean, she also wasn't even notified that they're making a movie, so it kind of doesn't...
Oh, no, she knew they were making a movie because she mentioned it in the previous episode, that there's something had been optioned in Hollywood.
Okay.
Which is why it makes sense that this episode suddenly goes to Hollywood. But obviously she is expecting just a nice, fairly... words are failing me today. But a film that follows her story pretty closely, right? Fairly faithful reproduction of her book, but in film format. She's not expecting what it seems to be some kind of sexy teenage horror romp, which is what Sleazy Producer is trying to turn it into.
Yeah, but she's Jessica Fletcher. I can't buy... Like, it's being optioned in Hollywood. Why would she not be curious? This is Jessica Fletcher. She finds the details. She digs into things. She's curious.
I agree.
She would have known that this shit show was becoming a shit show. I'm sorry for added vulgarity, but this...
No, this episode deserves it because it honestly does make no sense. Even the fact that, you know, I'm jumping a little bit forward here, but when they dig out the original contract and the junior lawyer brings it over, because she's been handed over from partners to the junior lawyer. And she reads the contract and she does work out she did actually sign something that says she has no rights to interfere in this film. And she's surprised by that. I do not believe she ever would have signed that.
And she would have kept reading because contracts like that are all about the fine print. You need to know and the junior lawyer says, "Oh, well, let me read it because you're not going to be able to understand legalese." Now, Jessica Fletcher is the neurotic kind of person who can read legalese, and she would read the whole damn thing, trying to find a way out of having her book just turned into garbage.
And the fact that she picked up on it that time, like reading it for what we assume is the second time, because she must have read it the first time when she signed it. Like, part of me was wondering, is that part of the plot that they've changed the contract on her at some point? Right? Because that, to me, would have made a lot more sense than, no, she actually did just sign it. Well, she drunk or something, I don't know. She signed it and she was just going to go and apologize to this guy. Right? Now, I know they were trying to set her up as the main suspect.
Yeah, that was...
Because they were trying to set her up as the main suspect from her first interaction. Because, again, she's not acting like Jessica Fletcher. She's saying such stupid things to people that, yes, she's going to be the main suspect. Right?
Right.
What then annoys me after that, and again, I apologize, I'm jumping around on this one, is how the detective doesn't give a shit.
The detective completely accepts her as innocent because he's also trying to be an aspiring screenwriter. And no.
What the fuck was that? So she's bullied her way onto the set while after saying some fairly provocative statements to the secretary of the sleazy producer. She finds the goddamn body, is found pretty much, well, running away from it is how she's found. By the security guard, and yet the security guard thinks she did it, right? He even says that, and then the very next scene is the detective allowing her to walk around the fucking crime scene,
right?
It's just like, what the?
I know the stereotype is, oh, the person closest that you just found. That's, to me, the on-screen evidence that she didn't seem like she was running away. She immediately found the security guard and took him back to the body. I guess you said that's there was an accident, so I guess that's more of a she might be guilty because it's not.
But obviously we know she's not guilty because we've seen her discover the body, and unless the camera is lying to us, we know she hasn't done it. But I could clearly see why the security guard thought she would have done it, at least be a suspect. And there's no way she would have been allowed back onto the crime scene.
So she wouldn't have been allowed back on the crime scene because she is a prime suspect because she was right there when it happened.
Yeah.
But she's also nobody to these people.
Yes.
Even if she wasn't a suspect, why is she traipsing around inches from the body?
Yes. And again, the whole through line of that starts to fall apart. So she wants to find the button, and they did one of those odd camera shots towards the button like they often like to do. Like, this is important.
Right.
At least this time it was obvious to see that it was a button.
Right.
It was hard for me to piece together that it was meant to be part of like a cheerleader's drum major's uniform type thing, because I've never seen one of those in my life. But they'd mentioned that costume a couple of times already, so I just assumed that's probably from that costume.
Initially, when I saw it, I thought it was the thing you put on the end of cufflink. I thought it was some sort of cufflink.
I'll be honest, when they first did the shot, I thought it was like a crumpled up bullet. I didn't get buttons straight away, like at all. Because I was like, what? Well, I don't know what they've cut to, but then they explained it was a button. That's more to do with the visual quality of the cameras at the time, I think, more than anything else. But yeah, I was a little bit confused about what it actually was we were looking at. And then, she is the one who points out what the murder weapon is, and then they never seem to question that absolutely was the murder weapon.
Right.
Even though it's been wiped clean, and as far as I can tell, there's no forensic evidence on it.
Yeah, and he's got a small bit of blood coming off the side of his head.
Yes,
from a blunt force death blow to the head.
Yes,
and none of his skulls. It's the weakest.
Yes,
it all feels like BS.
It does.
I know it's a TV show. They've only got so much time and budget, but
the whole thing just felt so off from start to finish. And then Jessica Fletcher, so she gets arrested, and the detective was like, "Oh, but it's a ruse because you're just working out." Like, what the fuck, detective, again? And then she's like, "Oh no, I was just going to go back home." Bullshit. Jessica Fletcher would leave that. Bullshit.
I didn't even think about that, but good fucking point. When she said she was just going to go home, that immediately struck me as no, she wouldn't, but I couldn't process why. But no, yeah, her curiosity of a murder that she's, almost directly tied to because she was there immediately, and it's her fucking book.
Yeah.
She's going to be invested.
I mean, what? She stayed to get her nephew out of trouble, and then she stayed to get her niece's fiance out of trouble. Yet she won't stay to get herself out of trouble? Come on. I'm not buying it. I'm so glad you didn't like this episode. I was really worried. I was really worried we were going to have a conversation and say, I loved it. It was so good. I was like, oh, fucking hell, no.
Part of me was worried you would like it, but part of me knew. No. Just.
Yeah. And there was no development of the story. Right? To me, there was no mystery in this episode. There was no even attempt to try and stop. All they wanted to do was, they think Jessica did it. How's she going to get out of trouble? It's like, she doesn't even want to get herself out of trouble. There was no real effort to, the director at one point was meant to be a main suspect, and that was a throwaway line. He doesn't have a lot of money. Who else are you meant to believe? Oh, the costume designer, because she was an ex-girlfriend.
Which is the woman that brought Jessica onto the set in the beginning.
But that was kind of throwaway, not really developed at all. Like, I know in 45 minutes you can't develop a lot, but you can do a lot better than that. And they did. In the second episode they ever put on, they did it a lot better, even though the actual, plot that they started didn't make any sense. The way that it was all uncovered and rolled along was very satisfying, right? And then the second proper episode they put on was worse, and then this one is fucking god awful. If they carry down this track, next week's going to be unwatchable.
I was almost thinking next week we just go ahead and script straight to season 2 to see what the fuck is going on here.
Like for the past few episodes, we have easily done an hour chatting about it.
Yeah.
Right? We're at 20 minutes. I feel like I'm done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It was awful.
Oh, well, see, we could chat for hours about this one, but just bitching about it. Just
yes.
saying. Because then
bitching about it.
The junior lawyer comes back and she gives him a whole list of things to do. Like they have some sort of connection. Like, what the fuck does he care what she thinks?
Well, because he does. Yeah, but again, this is the thing. The detective just going along with Jessica Fletcher. The junior lawyer is like, well, I definitely don't want to end up in court. So if you can stop us going to court, I'll do whatever you want. Like,
well, yeah, but isn't the junior detective like from the production company, and he wouldn't be the person going to court anyway because he's just a junior at the for the association? And if it's J.B. Fletcher and the director,
you would imagine
guild,
so. Yes, you would imagine that there would be high-profile people going to court.
He
for
seems
Jessica
all
Fletcher.
too enamored with her. Everyone is too enamored with her.
Yeah, and then basically he does the work to give you possible suspects, right?
And we know nothing about where he wants to go get this information.
No idea whatsoever. And then suddenly, not even like 3/4 of the way through the episode, we've thrown up 4 possible suspects. I think it was in the end. Well, if you include Jessica Fletcher. So Jessica Fletcher, prime suspect number 1. The director, the costume designer. I would say they were trying desperately hard to make the girlfriend or the star of the film / lover / whatever she's meant to be not a suspect, which automatically rings alarm bells to me. The boyfriend, maybe? Like the younger actor, but not really.
The writer for the movie screenplay.
Yes. Yes.
Because he's a recovering alcoholic / drug addict.
He's a recovering alcoholic drug addict who's been forced to write a terrible screenplay.
And is mad then that it's gotten edited and made even worse.
Yes.
So now his name's not even on the project he spent a lot of time on to try and, rebuild his life in Hollywood because Hollywood sucks, obviously.
Yeah.
Audience, are you sure you understand? Hollywood, audience.
Oh.
Hollywood sucks.
Hollywood does suck. They really wanted to get that through.
Well, that's kind of true in reality. That does but Jesus Christ, guys.
Well, it was definitely true then, because that's when bloody Harvey Weinstein was around. But
that's a good.
It's like
that's a really good point.
If you're trying to make this point, you really didn't follow it up to its final conclusion for about 30 years.
Yeah. About why it's bad.
So if Hollywood knew Hollywood was that bad, why didn't Hollywood do anything about it? But that's a whole different argument. That's got nothing to do with this episode. But no.
Actually, it kind of does, given that essentially the director who gets killed was...
Producer gets killed.
Whatever he was the dickhead. And he was, you do clearly see his dick. I wanted to talk about when he's talking. So when the dickhead who dies is talking with Eve, the lovable main character.
Yes. Star of the film.
He's unnecessarily evil with his looking down at her angle. The way they shot those scenes is just overabundance of...
That, to me, that's where I got the Harvey Weinstein thing from, because that's clearly what Harvey Weinstein did, right? The kind of, okay, if you sleep with me, I'll get you into a movie. And that's clearly what the plot of this was. And I completely control you. Yes, if you go against me, you'll no longer be part of Hollywood. And it was just so obvious and so slapped across your face that it was just kind of...
even the
don't
2-year-old
know.
in the room knew that he
Oh,
wasn't a good guy from those shots.
like everyone picked it up. But they're like, because the setup of the guy last week was essentially the same, but a little bit more subtle, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How did they make it look? And, you can have comically bad villains, but for
Oh, of
everything
course
to
you
just be
can.
comically bad for all of this
And I would have understood if they made him the obvious villain because they wanted more time to unravel the mystery in the episode. Because again, they've got time constraints. They've got 45 minutes
right.
to tell you a compelling story, right? So something's got to give. You can't do everything in that time frame, which is fair enough, right?
Normally, the thing I'm always willing to give them leniency on for time crunch is to get the premise of the episode set up. For a serialized thing like this, you know your main character, you know how it's going to go, but you've got to get every piece on the board and ready to be moved around it. I think most audiences are kind of willing to accept being shoved into the story just a little bit and then watching it develop. Yes. Having the suspension of disbelief to get into what we're going to discover today. But
100%. If they'd started it with Jessica Fletcher getting arrested, I would have been fine. Honestly. They could have started it right there. And then you could have really tried to develop that plot and put a little bit of mystery, actually introduce the other side characters as actual potential culprits. Because the only one they ever spent time on was Jessica Fletcher.
Yep.
And we knew Jessica Fletcher didn't do it.
So why are they showing the audience the whole development of Jessica Fletcher as the suspect?
Yes.
When the whole thing is also clearly she's not the actual suspect because the lieutenant's already completely given her free reign of the case.
Just everything, like just how, yeah. I just, Jessica Fletcher was at her most annoying in this episode. This kind of, she seemed vapid for some of it.
Yeah.
Now, I know you could argue that she's meant to be jet lagged and maybe that's part of it, but again, that doesn't explain why she then signed that contract, one would assume, over a year ago or whatever it was. It takes a long time to get a movie done. But yeah, she just seems so not herself that none of it made sense. And then
even one of the previous episodes was set in the West Coast, no? And that we didn't deal with her being jet lagged. Like, it was a minor thing, but it wasn't. Because we have the one episode where she's been awake for like 48 hours with her nephew, trying to get him off. Obviously, she's going to be jet lagged or what. She's not going to be doing great. I guess that was in Hollywood, so it wouldn't be proper jet lag. But nonetheless,
that was San Francisco, right? That was last week's.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, because she then covers her head with the pillow and then realizes the poor man's silencer thing.
Yeah, that's right. I was conflating the two. So that's San Francisco, and that's with her niece, so it's just as far of a flight. We've crossed just as many time zones, and she's awake the entire time, constantly harassing the lieutenant, never slowing down, always being investigative, detail-oriented, and not just almost an airhead.
Yeah. Complete and utter airhead. And it just felt so wrong. No pushback. Like I said, she was willing to go back and sit in Maine while someone else worked out what happened. Which only makes her look more guilty. Like, the only thing this whole episode was good for was setting up the fan theory that Jessica Fletcher is, in fact, a serial killer. Right? Because you've got the thing at the start where she's practicing murders. Because she's trying to work out what will work better in a book. I don't know how she comes to the conclusion that sneaking up on someone and garroting them is messier than stabbing them with a bayonet. But
yeah,
that's a question for a different episode, one would imagine. Right? And then the whole way she acts makes her seem guilty. Right? But we know she's not guilty. And nobody else in the episode believes she's guilty. So what is the point of trying to make her act so she looks so guilty? There was no jeopardy in this episode. And like I said, to me, there was no mystery. It was clear it was Eve, the girlfriend.
I'll again plead that I'm yet to pick up fully on the clues of these episodes for who it was, but no matter who it was, throughout the whole episode, I felt like there's no way that we get to the end and we see the different, even the pieces that were thrown down for us to pick up on and look at later were so incredibly weak.
And again, much like with last week's, why did she confess?
Right.
At the end, they had nothing. Absolutely nothing, right? Now,
well, and why would she? It's not like that confession's going to quote unquote stick, because she may be kind of a stupid actress, and apparently far more capable of acting than
great actress, yes.
But there was no record of that confession. Nothing's going on there to actually elaborate it. So that, even more so than normal, it doesn't matter, or it does matter that the cops were not there to hear the confession.
Yep. But there's absolutely, okay, the director was arrested because he was found in the changing rooms trying to find that outfit to put the button back, because he was the one who stole the button, right? But even that doesn't paint her in any kind of guilty light whatsoever. That's just the director making up a bullshit story, right? To get out of why he was doing what he was doing.
Why was the director there to be able to find the button immediately? Like, we have so many people all on that set not seeing each other for the actual murder. Because obviously Eve hits him and the button falls off her thing. Yeah. The director comes in and snatches the button and wipes the fingerprints off of the face. Yeah. And then in the time between Jessica seeing the body and then going and getting security, which was already coming towards her.
Yes, I guess what we don't know is how long he was there murdered. We know it wasn't long, right? Because Jessica Fletcher goes in to is trying to see him to apologize, delivers those terrible lines to the secretary that makes it sound like she's about to murder him, right? And then goes straight on to set to find him, right? We don't know how long he's been murdered, because I don't know what door Eve used to get out of the set. I don't know how many doors there are. Right, but we're kind of led to believe that there are two, right? The one that Jessica Fletcher came in, and the one that the director used.
And then, therefore, there has to be at least a third that Eve came in. But also, how did the director know that the murder happened? Know who did it, and know that it needed to be cleaned up?
Exactly.
Why was he there?
Yeah. Like. Yeah.
The director was invested not in Eve, just in trying to get the movie done so he could get his name back out there and start paying bills. But he had no reason to actually care about actual Eve.
The weak source. No, I didn't kill the producer because he was a sleazebag. Also, I apologize for people watching the recording of this. My camera has just started moving by itself. Let's try and get that back.
How long until we have an episode that's about hauntings, and then we can start having your camera move suspiciously?
But yeah, like the weak source, I didn't kill him because he was a sleazebag. I killed him because he was going to badmouth my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
And it's clear in the very beginning, he's just trying to threaten power over her. He's not actually that concerned with who she's dating so much as the fact that he's the only reason he would go after her boyfriend is to get more power over her and to reemphasize, hey, anyone you try and bring in or get involved gets destroyed. So,
it's not just you who gets destroyed, it's everybody. Yeah. Yeah. And weak source. Title of this episode may be weak source. This was just It was just fucking awful. Is that fair enough?
Yes. I think that's my exact words when we started the episode was it's fucking awful.
It's just... but yeah. I'm just like, this is... I mean, one, I was like, my God, are they really going to throw away the Jessica Fletcher is a suspect card already? Like, this is one I would have thought they would wait until season 3 or 4, right? You're scraping the barrel of stories. So we need to do that. Oh, they think it's Jessica Fletcher. Maybe we'll do a double episode to end it on a cliffhanger, right?
Right. And that's, honestly, it is scraping the barrel, but it can be really well done when you go that route and decide to fully commit to it, because this did not commit to the concept that Jessica might actually be guilty.
Not in season 1.
Episode 4.
That's not a card. Yeah, maybe season 1 final episode cliffhanger to get people into season 2. Right? You think Jessica Fletcher's going to end up in prison because, again, they've made her look guilty, not just to the people in the show, but also to the audience, right? Which they never did for us. At no point did we think she was actually guilty. Then, yeah. Not with this sleazy Hollywood producer with a better story, it could have worked. But to play this card already, it was just like, holy crap. And this thing goes on for like 7 more seasons.
Right. That's part of the reason why I'm just wanting to skip to season 2 because the finale of season 1 because
no skips. We got 20 more episodes in season 1 or 19. I can't remember if it's 23 or 24.
We're not trying to have these episodes be over vulgar, but if it keeps going down this route and we don't skip any episodes, it's going to get bad.
Oh, come on. If Murder, She Wrote keeps on going down at this track, we abandon this podcast at episode 6. Right? We'll just watch something else.
It's obvious at some point there were good episodes in there. There had to be. Otherwise, people would want movies.
There must be good episodes. There must be. There must be a reason this became the most watched thing that was on at the time when it was released.
Did you follow the thing with Eva, Eve, the actual murder/female star of the show, her being diabetic and what that had to do with drinking and I didn't follow.
Oh my God. So the diabetic thing, yes, you're not meant to drink when you're diabetic. It's bad for you. Right? But very weak. Weaker still, no drinker drinks scotch with Diet Coke. Yes, they fucking do.
Yeah, I was about to say, at some point, that might not be your first drink. Your first drink is a proper whiskey Coke. But you do get more, as she was obviously shit-faced, or at least acting to be shit-faced, you start mixing anything together, because fuck it, you're drunk. You just want more alcohol.
Yeah. And she is an actress, so she may not have wanted the sugar from Coke.
Right.
Regardless of being diabetic. But the fact that Jessica Fletcher was like, I knew you weren't really drunk because you were mixing it with Diet Coke.
Yeah.
What?
She's an actress in Hollywood trying to, obviously, she's a female lead who's trying to do nude scenes. She's going to be obsessed about her figure, at least to some extent. Everyone is kind of conceptually familiar with that. So her having Diet Coke makes it... She's going to drink shittier things because she's going to do shittier things to her body to try and stay relevant in Hollywood.
Well, she was already talking about drugs.
Right.
She had pills.
Oh, yeah. Every color of the rainbow or what have you.
Every color of the rainbow. So Jessica Fletcher is apparently like, well, you would never mix it with Diet Coke even though you might be fucking high on whatever the fuck you've just taken.
Right.
Tripping balls, you're still not going to mix scotch with Diet Coke. No, Jessica Beatrice Fletcher.
Why did that scene take so long for... I get that it was for the plot of the episode so that Jessica could see she wasn't properly drunk or, what have you. But it took 3 days for her to actually confess or to tell Eve that he had died. By first... What was it?
Because there was the booze, and then there was the cold shower.
And then there was getting her into dry clothes, warmed up, giving her
having a coffee. I assume it was meant to be a coffee.
Probably tea, actually, given Jessica.
And then she was like, oh, you haven't heard?
And
it was like, no. But why did the detective send Jessica Fletcher over? And why did she agree to do it?
There's certain things
detective, that's your
really
fucking job.
There's things where it is really important to actually get the person as close to sober as possible before they hear it. But I'm sorry, the producer dying is one of those things that is so. It doesn't matter if she's drunk because she's instantly going to get sober and then instantly break down. Now, obviously, you can't get instantly sober, but adrenaline can do amazing things to the body. Just get to the punch.
Just get to the point.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
But no, like this was, from Jessica Fletcher being in Hollywood in the first place, to her stupid involvement, to her wanting to not be involved in solving it, to then the explanation at the end as to how she knew she wasn't really drunk. Just everything about this episode just stank.
Well, and even though the director had full rights because she apparently had signed them away, she does seem like the person who would go to kind of apologize to say, no, you are in your right, but still I can't imagine her not trying to find something to shut down this production. Or the only thing I did notice is when they were going past the movie poster, I didn't see Jessica Fletcher's name on there anywhere. So I also start to wonder how much they even marketed that it was her book. But
I don't think they did. I think the producer more or less said it. He brought the title.
Yeah.
And didn't care really about anything else. So I think it would have been very easy for Jessica Fletcher to have separated herself from this movie.
And then I don't think she would even truly bother to apologize. She got it wrong.
I think she would have apologized for getting it wrong. I think. But why she would have been adamant that she had to deliver that in person, I don't know. That seems much more like something you would send in a letter. Especially when you don't want anything to do with the production because it's a shit movie. Yes, but it's just to make sure she's there to discover the body.
Right. Well, and
so the secretary can point the finger. Yeah. Like it just. So what I'm hoping is, I don't know, maybe for season 1 they wrote 10 good episodes, right? And then the studio said, oh, but we need 24. And so they had to crap out a few more. I'm hoping this is one of the ones they had to crap out in a rush. And that next week's really has to be good. In my opinion. Like if I'm watching this week to week, I've probably given up.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm going to sit back down in 1984 to watch Murder, She Wrote again is because it's the only fucking thing on.
Yeah.
There's no other reason I'm going back to it right now.
I could see. I'm trying to think. There was a movie or there was a TV show that was on for a short stint that me and my father tried watching with me as a full-fledged adult. It's got an Iranian actress who's trying to play a 13-year-old boy. I don't remember the name of the show. Right. But I think we only made it through 2 episodes, and if I had heard it was a critical success, I might have then gone back and retried it. But it was canceled after 1 season, and I knew why. It was just bad.
Yeah.
But I think after we said we were done with it, after we gave up, we watched the first 3 minutes of the next episode. So I could see someone sitting down and giving this just a moment in episode 5 to see, okay, are they still off their rocker, or have we got something reasonable here? But this is pretty bad for a 45-minute show, when especially with this, once you've started it, if you try and switch off to something else, you're going to have missed the beginning of that. Yeah. So it really messes with your time slots to actually spend any time trying to give this another shot in the next week.
Yeah.
And if your friends had seen, episode 1 and 2, and were really excited, telling you, oh, they're good, you got to watch it. You tune into this as your first or second episode, you're done. Like,
if this was the first episode we watched, Like, no.
Even if it was the second, I would have been, what the hell is wrong with you?
It's what it's given me hope that maybe when they put this together, they knew where the weak ones were. Because I think the first proper episode, I think, has been the best one they've put out so far. Even though there were issues with it, I think it does prove that they can do a fairly decent mystery story in 45 minutes. Right?
I'm trying to think about how word of mouth would have spread at that point in time and the conversations. And I feel like you would want to have a rather good episode as your first one, your second one be exceptional, and then kind of give yourself a little bit of leeway, because you want people to start talking about it enough on the first episode for other people, like, you know what, I'll give it a shot.
If this is me, and you're trying to get people to tune in weekly, again, this isn't, and we're watching it weekly, so we are suffering through it how people originally did, right? Rather than binging it in a box set type thing. I feel like if you were binging this, like maybe we'll watch episode 5 and it'll be so good. This episode will just be a dim memory, right? It's gone. But when you're doing week to week, you really got to get people invested. There's always going to be bad episodes. You cannot avoid a bad episode in a TV show, right? It's almost impossible, especially when you do the American 24 episodes per season thing, right? There's going to be filler. There's going to be phoned in episodes. It's going to happen. But you want your audience to be invested, that a throwaway episode doesn't ruin everything about the central character. And to me, this episode ruined everything about Jessica Fletcher.
Exactly.
Right? She's been eviscerated. She's been ripped to shreds. Sorry, eviscerated. She's been ripped to shreds, and she has come across as this completely vapid old lady until right at the end, where honestly it's like she's bullying this poor Hollywood actress into confessing to a crime that maybe Jessica Fletcher did actually do. I thought Jessica Fletcher was more guilty at the end than I did at any time through the rest of the show.
I'm not to the point where I think we have an untrustworthy narrator or what have you, where what they show on or what they show the audience isn't actually what happened.
Yes,
they don't seem to have things. Honestly, for how complex the writing hasn't been, I would not assume they would try and go to that level of a Den Offense narrator.
No, and I don't think they are. But it was just so honest, because it did seem like bullying that woman into confessing. It really did, on the most spurious of ideas, based on a confession that the director gave, that any competent lawyer is just going to say, well, of course he said that. He's trying to cover his own ass.
Right.
You know, and the director had just more motive to kill the guy than Eve did. Eve? Yeah, I think it was Eve.
Eve. Well, like last week, we didn't think the episode itself was great, but we thought Jessica Fletcher was good in it.
Oh, Jessica Fletcher was good, yeah.
And even if you want to have her be a less, for having filler episodes, for having throwaway episodes, you have a little bit less of the focus be on Jessica and a bit more on some other people that we don't see much, but, have them ham-fist their way through. Don't take your main character and just the almost the character that the show is named for, if you will, be useless, not at all herself. Maybe even if we got convinced that Eve drugged her at some point, or one of the directors in the early scenes. Anything.
But and again, think about how much better this episode could, even with the same story. Think about how much better this episode would have run if, one, Jessica Fletcher had been put behind bars and was trying to solve this with that handicap.
Yeah.
She can't talk to anyone directly. She has to work through this junior lawyer, right?
Right.
That then would have made the junior lawyer make a lot more sense, right? He's basically being trained by Jessica Fletcher how to solve a murder. Or how she would.
Then still at that point be clever, be...
Incredibly clever. She's putting all this stuff together from behind bars.
Exactly.
And it all starts to work. But the general conceit that she would sign this contract that gives away her rights that clearly she's interested in keeping doesn't make sense.
It occurs to me we saw the main the homicide detective, because this time I think it was lieutenant. I really don't care what the title is. We've had 3 homicide detectives through the 3 episodes, and her connection with this one, like, it almost seems like he's not even on the case. He's decided he's done, and Jessica can do it from here.
Like,
what?
If they had revealed at the end that he was actually just an actor, right, and somebody was trying to gaslight Jessica Fletcher for some reason, like, it was a surprise birthday party, and they were trying to make Jessica Fletcher panic, right, or something. Stupid scenario would have made more sense than what actually happened in this episode, right? She'd been kidnapped by aliens. Would have made more sense than this episode made.
I start with the fact, if we had some inkling that the first guy, because I don't even know why she meets the first, it's literally wasting time in the episode.
It's literally wasting time. She's seeing the publisher's lawyer,
I don't
agent.
Well, and then,
it's not her lawyer.
And we have that actor. We have that whole set that they've got for that, which is rather well done up. I assume they had to borrow it from some other set, but still, that's just why. And if it was only set up for this show, that's an expensive shot for nothing.
And then, from start to finish. Like, I'll be honest.
I wanted to say, if he had drugged her, if we had some inkling he had drugged her, and that's why she wasn't fully on her game, we can get her off her game using different methods to keep her from being as successful.
Yeah.
But, you could be, she's been drugged, but she's still being as clever as she can be while not being able to actually think clearly. We could go with that. Because honestly, thinking she's sober, as it were, not influenced in any way through this episode, just it makes her seem stupider than me, and that's not good.
Yeah, and she wasn't a busybody. She wasn't interested.
No.
And that's not Jessica Fletcher. Right? And then to wrap that around what is a very bad mystery story as well, just leads to an absolute shit emoji of an episode. And I hope we never see the likes of this again. I genuinely hope next week we've watched episode 5 and the first words that come out of our mouths are "thank God."
Yeah, I was about to say that's the words wouldn't be "that was a good episode." It would be "thank God."
Thank God.
Thank God we're not doing that again.
Because if the first words that come out of our mouths again are "it's fucking awful," one, it may be the shortest episode of this podcast we ever do, because we'll probably just leave it at that.
If we stop this, I'm going to have to binge it to try and figure out what. At this point, the mystery to me is why was this still on the air?
I'm not saying we stop doing the podcast. What I am saying is if next week episode 5 is just as bad, that's all we're going to say. And then we'll come back for episode 6. Right? Until we get a good one. Right?
Oh.
I don't care if there's 45 2-minute episodes.
Oh, no, we can make them longer by talking about things that aren't the shitty episodes.
Right. But another episode. So the worst thing is, right, so I downloaded copies of all the episodes, right, and this one didn't work. Right.
Oh.
So I had to go and find this episode again, right, from a different place. I also know the same thing has happened to next week's episode. That I have to go and find it again, right? And I'm so worried that whoever I got the copies from the first time knew these episodes were so fucking bad. They're like, do you know what? You just want to skip. You just want to skip these 2 and go to episode 6, right?
Okay,
and be happy you've missed them. Be happy you missed them. So I'm terrified next week's is going to be just as terrible.
I was that uploader and I thought they were that bad, I would actually just have it play something. Like, it would be just a Rickroll, would be episodes 4 and 5 with a note saying, "This episode shit, please, for the love of God."
Just record yourself. Go, no, you don't want to. You don't want to. Skip along.
I'm doing
Skip
you a
along.
favor.
Yeah, move along. Nothing to
for
see
your
here.
own good.
Literally nothing to see here.
But yeah, at this point, the mystery to me is how on God's green earth did this go?
How?
One of the people wanted movies.
How did this go
is
on
not
for
it.
so long? Yeah, no, this is not it. This is not it. This is awful. This is terrible. And I just want to go home and watch something else. Anything else. Do you know what? Because again, I think I mentioned the fact that the whole Angela Lansbury teaching older women how to pleasure themselves in the bath, right? I rather would have watched that. I rather would have watched that this week than whatever the fuck this
been intriguing.
was.
And I know we keep talking about that's not Jessica Lansbury, but we know the show runs for seasons, and even the pilot lets us know who she is.
Yes.
It doesn't. It kind of shoves it a bit in our face, but at least who she's supposed to be as a murder mystery writer / solver every time she gets shoved into one of those situations.
Yes.
She's not meant to be useless. And
I know that the explanations as to why she's there are going to get worse and worse because they have to. Because it makes no sense for her to be involved in all of these murder cases unless she is the killer, right? But yes, we can accept that because this is a TV show. It is a vehicle for Jessica Fletcher, Angela Lansbury as Jessica Fletcher, to solve crimes. Okay.
Isn't the term serialized that we're looking for on this?
Yes.
Okay.
And I get that. And I am going to have to accept and probably take the mickey out of the fact that the reasons she is involved in these cases at all are going to get worse and worse and worse.
And
what I don't want is
silly fun. But...
Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. And I hope they play up the fun element of it, right? We know this is a stupid setup, but we've got to get her there somehow.
And she's going to be great once she gets there.
I'm sure there's going to be one, my car's just broken down and she just happens to go to a house where someone's been killed.
Actually, that's going to be good. I actually look forward to that episode because that's going to happen.
There's bound to be more weddings when she's invited someone and somebody gets murdered. We all know that's going to happen.
Because we don't know how many siblings she has, and therefore no idea how many nieces and nephews.
I mean, I'm still waiting I know she said they didn't have children, and they have said that in the episodes. I'm still waiting for the episode where it's her son or daughter that she has to go and help. Because if they can write this episode, they can forget she's not meant to have kids. If they can forget she's meant to be a smart woman.
If that episode happens, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to come in, open the mic, say, fuck you, fuck this. I'm done for this week.
But yes, in conclusion, people listening, don't watch this episode. I know we assume you've already watched it when you're listening to these back, but for the love of God, do not watch this episode.
And in the future, if you're uncertain if you should watch the episode, listen to the first 2 minutes of the podcast, and I can guarantee you'll know.
You'll know.
You knew in 2 minutes of this one, though. No, this is not it.
This is not it.
We will start bitching immediately.
This was not it at all. And
normally, before we start recording, we bullshit a little bit. We chat, and both of us were just so eager to break into, oh my God, what was that?
Even in the podcast, we tried to do like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of non-episode related chat. We did 15 seconds this week?
Yeah, because I was done.
It was awful. And I think the most important part is that I think both of us were wondering, did the other guy like this? Because I feel that if the other person liked this episode, our friendship might be over.
Oh yeah, that would be rough. This would be are you actually okay? Like you'd be wondering who
you like
me?
This episode? Have you been mixing your scotch with Diet Coke? Because that's the only reason I can think you like this episode.
I would have to be more than scotch. It would be shrooms or LSD or God only
Pills
knows.
of every color of the rainbow.
Right.
Followed by a chaser of scotch and Diet Coke.
Oh.
And that's how I knew you were a murderer. And that's also how I met your mother. Because why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Well,
and before anyone thinks, if they're still listening and they haven't watched it, and they're thinking it's worth watching because it's so bad it's good, no, it's just bad.
No.
I enjoy so bad it's good. This is not it.
No, and right, I know this isn't about the podcast, but I watched the film Rubber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, I'd rather watch that again.
Really?
Yeah.
And I remember how much, because my impression was always that Rubber was one of those so bad it's good kind of things. But like Rocky Horror Picture Show, honestly, is kind of bad. It's actually pretty horrendous, but it's fun.
It is. It's fun.
It's so bad it's good.
It's got some catchy tunes, and
it takes itself just serious enough.
Yes, it only works when the actors involved really put themselves into the roles, right? Like Tim Curry as Dr. Frankenfurter worked really well, right?
Tim Curry always works well.
That is true. But yes. Yeah, I don't know with this one. Like, yeah, if they were going to do the Jessica Fletcher as guilty card, I'd wish they'd lent into it.
Yes. And even for that, like, these are all, I get it's all serialized. You don't want to lean into the weird twists too soon. You want the audience to be familiar with. To me, this would be it was way too early to have Jessica Fletcher be a suspect,
too early.
Even though it was obvious she was never actually a suspect because she's back on the set hours after being arrested.
Of course, this is a story you're going to tell with something like this because you always go down the maybe the detective was guilty thing, right? But it's a card you keep up your sleeve for a much later season and for a much better story. Yes.
And it's like it's a stereotype, but it's not a bad stereotype. It's not a good stereotype. No. It's how you use it. And in this case, horribly.
Horribly. Absolutely horribly from start to finish. Just everything about this episode was just awful. It felt phoned in. It felt phoned in and fake.
I don't know how to articulate why I don't think maybe it's the detective shouldn't be in season 1, or at least not like we mentioned until the finale. How do we articulate exactly why that is? Because I'm trying to figure that out, kind of unrelated to the episode. Why is that bad writing to have it too early in the first season?
No, it's not bad writing. But the thing is, so at the moment you're trying to establish Jessica Fletcher, right?
Yeah.
And she's meant to be your hero. And honestly, if you're doing a modern day version of this, you're already probably thinking with how bad the justifications for her being there are, you're already probably thinking maybe she is a serial killer. And in fact, I think if you were doing a modern Murder, She Wrote, you'd be trying to layer that in. You'd be trying very subtly to put that thought into people's minds. But
there's no way they were trying that with this.
No, of course not. No, and I don't think in the 80s he would have even thought about it. But I think the thing is and the other thing with when normally if you're going to say the main detective is the suspect, it's the excuse for all the people around them, all the side people they've had for all this time. It's kind of okay. Now you get to prove your worth, that you can actually help your mentor, right? You can actually help the hero in this regard. And there's none of that so far in Murder, She Wrote. It's purely Jessica Fletcher, right?
Thank you for articulating that, because those are the reasons you don't have it as your third fucking episode.
Yes, but there's no. But if they'd done this well, again, if they had done it well, and we as the audience thought maybe she did do it. She has said these ridiculous things. Even if we knew if she hadn't done it, it would have made more sense. Like, if you took the grumpy Cabot Cove cop, right, who knows Jessica Fletcher, he would have thought she was guilty.
Yeah.
And treated her as a proper suspect, right? Because that's the job. Even if he doesn't believe she did it, That it's his job, right? And he would have done it well.
And that would allow that secondary character to prove
would
their worth,
allow-
because it would be the cop and it would be Ethan.
Yes.
The cop would think, I think you're guilty, and she'd be like, that's fine, I'm here in prison, but I want you to look at this thing this way. And
Yeah.
he could give her enough of the benefit of doubt of, look, she normally knows what the fuck she's talking about,
Yeah.
and I'll humor her because fuck it. And then Ethan would do the things the cop wasn't quite willing to look at.
Again, yeah, you could take it that far, right? Because you can say, okay, Jessica Fletcher's been arrested. That's clearly going to make the news.
Right.
Cabot, Cove, Cop, and Ethan are going to find out. They're going to take a road trip to try and help out Jessica Fletcher, right?
And you could bring in the nephew or the niece.
Bring in the nephew or the niece.
They care.
And again, and if you've got 20 episodes under your belt and enough side characters and enough belief in Jessica Fletcher and enough belief, because even like you were saying with the maybe they've drugged her thing, at this stage you don't know enough about Jessica Fletcher. We believe we do, because she's always come across as this incredibly capable, stickler to detail, nosy busybody, but also lovable kind of grandma type character.
I can't imagine the show going this long and opening it with her being that character if that character doesn't stick around. That honestly,
that's got to be the character
because of her.
That's got to be the character, right? This Jessica Fletcher that we got this week, I don't support violence against anyone, right? But I just wanted to give her a slap.
I was mad at the writer. I feel Angela Lansbury, like, Tim Curry can't do wrong. Tim Curry takes his role seriously.
Yes.
And there's a point at which you've just been given a bad script. I'm hoping Angela Lansbury was given a bad script and just could not do much else with it. But
I'm kind of hoping that this was so early on in the run that Angela Lansbury didn't have the power to say we're not doing this. Right, because there's going to be some point where Angela Lansbury is Jessica Fletcher, that when a script this poor comes across her desk, she's going to say, no, we are not doing this. So. Right, because that once you're that invested in a character, that is the kind of power and impetus you have. Right, you're able to go to the producers, the directors and the writers and say, I don't think Jessica Fletcher would do this. Right. And I have to hope that Angela Lansbury is like, I don't think Jessica Fletcher would do this. But we're 4 episodes in, right? She's not a big star when she comes into this. So this would have been, I think, a paycheck that she probably could say no to, right? She's had movie success, but I think this was her first move into TV.
I will say this didn't feel like she did the best she could with what was given to her. Not to
no, this felt like Jeremy Irons. This felt like Jeremy Irons in the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
It just sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. It did. It did. I'm going to say it did one more time, just to really emphasize the point that it really did. It did. It did. It did. It did. I don't know what to call this episode now. Do I just call it? It did. It's just effing awful.
Part of me was thinking Teterboro Part 2 as an episode title would be kind of fun, but no, I don't want to besmirch that first episode.
No, not this one. No, not a chance. Not a chance. Oh dear. Nothing to see. I might call it Nothing to See Him Move Along.
We're still worth listening to.
Oh,
we're still charming.
I just can't. This episode, I just can't. But we did. We've talked for an hour and 10 minutes about utter garbage.
Man, I've got the fireplace. I've got the firewood. That's going to be a good way to, actually relax.
Yes. Go and have a nice fire, nice hot chocolate marshmallows. Whatever it is you do, while you're lying naked on your bearskin rug in front of your fire.
I am fully dressed. I made the decision that I'm going to try and be competent in here, and I am. Well, I don't have shoes on, but I have everything else. I am dressed. So fuck you.
Oh dear. Okay, couple of housekeeping things as we wind up.
Are you
the video
wearing pants?
podcast is. I am wearing pants. The video podcast is now also up on Spotify. and will be making its way through Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, all that kind of stuff as it does. By the time you're listening to this, all episodes will be up on all of the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. If I remember, and I know I won't, I will put a RSS feed link in the description below. When it's not there, it's because Nightbringer didn't do it.
Right?
It's got nothing to do with me.
Look, I've got a bad mic and you're trying to throw me further under the bus. You know what? Fair.
Yeah, I mean, they all know it's because I didn't do it. I mean,
Again, I'm curious what character I get this week.
And then I'm a fan of this week's. I am a fan of this
See,
week's.
that's why they should watch it. Not because of not because of the horrible episode we watched, but because of how amazing we are when given shit.
Yeah, but yeah, I honestly, if the next episode is like this, expect a short episode of the podcast, unless we just go off rails and just talk about how bad Christmas is.
That will probably be exactly what happens.
And I'm hoping for a good episode.
How long did we chat after our last episode?
About the same as this. Oh, you mean just after the episode? Yeah, like 4 or 5 hours of just
Maybe we can take them Amazon shopping with us.
Oh dear. Maybe if we got to fill at least an hour, and the next episode is as bad as this, maybe. Maybe we'll just try and write our own episode of Murder She Wrote. Just go, fuck it. We can do better than this. This week we would have been right.
What? Yeah.
This week, you could have taken a dog turd and just smeared it all over the paper. It's improved. You've done better.
I am not a good creative writer, but I think between the two of us, we could get something twice as good as this.
Yeah, as good as this, infinity better than this. There's no real metric. There's no real. I mean, Jessica Fletcher would seem like Jessica Fletcher, so there's a start.
This episode feels like filler between the commercials.
It feels like a filler episode 4 episodes in.
That's why it's filler between the commercials.
That's bad.
The best thing about watching this episode for the people at the time was the commercial breaks.
Oh, that's true. It's such a shame. I don't have copies of these with the commercials.
I don't want it.
Oh, I wonder if I could find one for this episode just to see if that was true.
Some of the dated commercials actually might be kind of fun.
Yeah. They may have been selling that same very TV that Jessica Fletcher turned on.
This is bad that we're wanting to see the commercials between the...
Yes!
Yes! Bad.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I question how many cups of tea / coffee were made during this episode just so you could be doing something else. Or how suddenly you needed to go to the bathroom just to be out of the room. Like, this was just... we've said it before, but it was just bad. It's just bad. It's like a Michael Jackson song.
I don't know which one, but okay.
Well, I mean, I feel like they tried to do Thriller during this episode, so... But anyway.
Oh, the flashing lights also were done absolutely horribly for those scenes. My full screen whited out. Like, yes. I know I'm not at a TV. I know this is but no. Just no.
Yeah.
You can do flashes without trying to blind anyone watching.
But I think that'll do it. I think we've got across to people that it's bad. It was a bad episode. It was a bad 45 minutes of TV.
I am not a media critic, but no.
Yeah, just no.
I have no training.
Just yeah. You feel like you just want to roll up a newspaper and just hit them on the nose and go, no, No.
Yes. Because it feels like that's how much they cared about it, and so you're just reminding them appropriately, this is not acceptable.
No.
I know you don't care that you peed in the house, but no.
Yes, no Ubu, sick, good dog. Ubu, bad dog. Bad fucking dog. I know Ubu had nothing to do with this, but anyway, that is going to do it. We are going to have to wrap this one up. Thank you for sticking through it. I hope to God you didn't actually watch this episode. And if you did watch this episode because of us, I am so sorry.
And if you watch it after this,
so sorry.
You have been warned.
Yes.
It's not.
You have been warned.
It's so bad it's good.
It's your own fault. Yes. But, all right. Say goodbye, Nightbringer.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday indeed. And like I say, we are recording this just for the festive period, so have a wonderful festive time. I believe
and a
you and I
year.
are both still good to do one before the new year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think we should be recording next Sunday as well.
I'm just terrified that I'm not going to... I hope there is a better way to close out the year and a better way to open the next year as well.
Yes. Yes. Please. Like, part of me is just tempted to watch the next episode now, but no, I'm going to wait. Just to know. Just to know. But no, we're going to wait. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.
Have a great one. Bye.